Welcome everyone to the webinar, Revolutionize Customer Experience and Transform Service Performance through Augmented and Merged Reality, hosted today by Mize. I'm Alan Horn, Business Development Manager at Mize, and I'm going to be your host and moderator for this webinar. The webinar agenda includes a discussion on the customer experience in field service, but in particular on utilizing an integrated virtual interactive telepresence during the service interaction. Our presenters today are Michael Blumberg, CMO at Mize, Andrew Thomas, Product Manager at Mize, and Marc Guthrie, COO at Help Lightning. We'll follow their presentations today with a question and answer session. I want to inform you about some details to help you get the most out of the webinar today. First of all, the webinar is being recorded, and the recording and the slide deck of the presentations will be made available to you after the webinar. All attendees will be muted during the webinar, but you can post questions at any time by using the question panel in the Go to Webinar widget. Next, I want to introduce our presenters. Michael is Chief Marketing Officer of Mize. Andrew Thomas is Product Manager of Field Service Management and Customer Experience with Mize. He's responsible for producing and managing the roadmap for our enterprise-level field service SaaS model. Marc is COO of Help Lightning, where he manages all business development and customer success activities. He's an experienced entrepreneur who has held leadership roles at Comframe and Influence Health. All right, next let me hand over the discussion and the presentation to our CMO, Michael Blumberg.
Thank you, Alan, and welcome everyone to our webinar today. Most of us are involved in field service, and in our companies, we all want to do an excellent job in providing field service. We want to provide a great customer experience and phenomenal service. We found that there's really two factors that field service organizations look at when they're determining if they're providing great service. One of those factors is speed of service, not just the fact that a technician gets there quickly, but once they're on the job, that they resolve the issues very quickly. And then the next factor that is being evaluated is, do they fix it right the first time? So speed of service and first time fix are the primary metrics that leading field service organizations are tracking to determine if they're providing great service. Unfortunately, many field service organizations can face bottlenecks to providing a great field service. And these bottlenecks include the fact that the technician lacks knowledge. They go on site and they've never seen this issue before, and they don't know how to solve the problem. Or they might have inaccurate and partial data about the problem that they're looking at or about the piece of equipment they're working on. And because of that, they're not able to resolve it quickly or resolve it right the first time. They may just be taking too long on the service visit. They may be wasting time or just taking a very long time because they don't know how to solve the problem. They don't know where to find the information or the knowledge. If they're lacking the knowledge, they're not really sure what data source to go to or what knowledge base to look at to find the answers they're looking for. They might not be able to do a good job in diagnosing the problem. They might not have the right parts with them, so if they come back a second time. Or there's no audit trail, that they can't see what somebody did before they arrived on site. So there's with that, if they had that information, they could determine what types of fixes were performed previously. And of all these different factors, several of them are the result of a knowledge deficiency. In other words, the service organization is not providing the technician with the right knowledge to solve the problem. So we've put an asterisk next to those that are highly correlated to not having enough knowledge on hand. And there's some more critical data points I want to share with you. The first one is that 1/3 of a technician's workday is spent on repair tasks. So it's really important in that part of the day that they're operating as productively as possible, because the more productive they are, the quicker they can solve problems and solve it right the first time, the more calls they could take, the more events they could fix. So that has a tremendous impact on the profitability of a company. by being able to utilize the technicians. So it's important to have the right knowledge. The second factor I want to talk about is that from the research that we've looked at, we found that in 1 out of every 4 service visits, on average, the technician fails to complete a first-time fix or fix it right the first time. So that's 25% of all the calls that technicians take on average is not resulting in a first-time fix. And of course, knowledge plays a key role in facilitating a high first-time fix. So why do we have that problem? I mean, aren't we training our technicians correctly? Aren't we providing them with the knowledge and information they need to solve the problem right the first time and complete the task at hand very quickly? Well, the answer is that we don't always have that information. The information may exist. It's not that it's not there. It's not easy for them to access it in a timely manner. They might have to search different databases, disparate databases and disconnected database. If they don't see it easily in the database, if they have a mobile device and they're logging on and they still can't find it, quite often they have to call a technical support center to get help, and that takes time. The information sources that they're looking at may also differ in complexity, in the format, maturity, or even the language. There also may be no system of record or audit trail to show them what someone has done before, or on either on that piece of equipment or in a similar situation. And the last time that this piece of equipment failed, what did the previous technician that looked at this type of equipment do to solve the problem? That information doesn't exist. And the last thing that I want to stress is I don't think there's one thing as one tool doing it all. There's really no such thing as a Swiss Army knife when it comes to knowledge management. It's not just one tool, it's multiple tools. And actually, I'm going to probably eat my words because in this webinar, I'm going to show you a Swiss Army knife for solving the problem. But the point is there's no one tool that does it all. So some companies are trying to resolve the knowledge deficiency gap by equipping their technicians with one tool, that only tool, but that's not it. There's just so many variables at play here. I'll get into more detail when I show you what that Swiss Army knife looks like. So of course, technical know-how is getting harder, and that's because product cycles are getting shorter, product complexity is increasing, customer expectations are rising, and the technician workforce is turning over. And the impact of all that, it hurts customers and it hurts your field service organization. For one thing, by not having the right knowledge on hand, your customers are going to experience longer downtime. And we know that extended downtime could hurt their operations. They could be losing money. They could be losing customers because the equipment isn't working. It will also dramatically and negatively impact customer satisfaction if you're not solving the problem right the first time or resolving it quickly. The impact on your organization is you're going to lose productivity if you don't equip your technicians with the right knowledge, if you don't enable them with the right knowledge. You might spend longer time on site. Your technicians might spend longer time on site. They might have to make more calls to your technical support center, which of course leads to higher costs of having the people to resolve those calls, and it also impacts the productivity of the call and the resolution rate. If your technical support people are tied up on the phone call with a technician, it means both the technician and the call center people are not helping customers. They're spending more time looking for information and trying to understand what the problem is than actually resolving the problem. Of course, you have to do that, but there's ways to short circuit that, and we'll share that with you. You're also experiencing higher costs and, as I mentioned before, lower customer satisfaction. So here it is. Remember I told you about the Swiss Army knife of knowledge management? Well, this is it. This is what a platform would look like, and the ideal platform would be a unified platform that connects disparate systems and knowledge bases through a single sign-on. It would deliver all service content that's available to the technician, including service manuals, service bulletins, knowledge articles, parts catalogs, and training videos on any mobile device. It would also allow a Google-like search against fully indexed content from all sources for faster and more accurate results. It would filter relevant answers based on the product field component, symptom, or failure description. It provides easy to author and publish content in real time to deliver the most up-to-date and accurate information. It captures technicians' feedback to continuously improve the content and search results. It provides multi-language support capabilities, including real-time text transaction. It provides integration to enterprise systems. And most importantly, and this is why we're here today, is it provides interface with knowledge tools, specifically augmented reality and merged reality, which Marc Guthrie will share more about that shortly. And lastly, it provides reporting and analytics. So we're pleased to announce today our partnership with Help Lightning, and we're introducing a new feature called MyZone AR MR that is part of that Swiss Army knife knowledge management platform that I just shared with you. And the components of the solution are that Mize provides the knowledge, the parts management, the field service, and support functionality, while Help Lightning provides the augmented reality, merged reality remote support capability. These combined tools help with knowledge sharing. They can be integrated into service activity, for example, support cases, service orders, warranty claims, so you can attach what's happened in resolving the problem and what knowledge sources were accessed. If you're using Help Lightning's AR, you can record a session and attach it to a support case. And as I mentioned, you can create and record the training videos and add back to the knowledge platform. And lastly, just want to underscore here that Mize is a reseller of the solution, and it's bundled with our knowledge platform, and the feature is called Mize AR MR. And we believe the value proposition for field service organizations, in fact, we're very confident in this value proposition because we're testing it right now and getting good results, is that for the technician, it improves the diagnostics that are available to them. It helps them be more efficient and effective with the repair procedures, and it also helps them quickly determine what part to use. For the service organization that's on this platform, it improves the tech productivity, improves the customer experience, ensures that the right parts are used on the repair, and also improves the contact center productivity. So with that, I want to turn the webinar over to my colleague, Andrew Thomas, who will provide you a demo of how this platform works.
And hi, everyone. I am Andrew Thomas, the product manager for the Mize Field Service Solution. I work with service providers and technicians to better understand their pains and how we at Mize can translate those pains into targeted solutions on the Mize CX platform. In addition to our demo today, we do have two case studies that we'd like to highlight. The first one is with a leading appliance manufacturer that needed to provide field service technicians with mobile accessible knowledge. And the second case study will be provided by Help Lightning's Marc Guthrie. I'd like to begin this demo with some easy self-service capabilities every technician should have access to, then show some examples of contextual self-service knowledge before handing it over to Marc, who will be showing the value of the augmented reality and merged reality in the field setting. So with knowledge, using a native mobile application, technicians can gain access to a central repository with a variety of knowledge resources. The Mize Knowledge Smart Block makes it easy for technicians to find out just about any knowledge resource. So categorizing knowledge into folders and groups will help the technician find the type of knowledge that they're looking for, including things like knowledge objects, operator manuals, workshop manuals, schematics, fault codes to read the errors from diagnosing machine problems, as well as service bulletins when those are needed on demand to put in front of the technician, as well as short videos. Things like schematics, giving an example here, is not only a flat diagram image, but it also is an image that allows technicians to zoom into a wiring harness and interact with that particular knowledge resource and provide them the information necessary to identify problems and fixes. Next, for product-specific knowledge, the technician can simply scan a barcode to find relevant knowledge. I'll do that by tapping in our search field and just scanning a barcode I have in front of me, which is going to pull up that particular product serial number, which I'll select here, and be able to view any of the knowledge categories associated with that particular product, and I can scroll through and search for those as needed. If I do find the one that is relevant to my need, I can do things like download it for offline use. And depending on its viability for that particular application, I can add comments or attachments or even provide ratings on that for better searchability. Another scenario to cover here that does incorporate knowledge is the use of support cases. In the case that a technician doesn't have the ability to sort through all of that knowledge resources, they might choose to open a support request. And I'm also going to do that here in the mobile app. So prior to requesting support, the technician can enter in some basic information. Again, I'm going to go ahead and scan my handy barcode here, as well as enter in some problem information. Maybe this is an installation. I can choose some of the complaints, reasons for repair, and I'm just selecting these randomly. But the nice thing about it, of course, is that they will link back to the metadata of knowledge articles, which will give me potential helps and fixes. Finally, if the suggested knowledge cannot help me at this point, I can return to the previous screen, skip this step, and go ahead and provide that additional information to initiate that case. Once these cases are submitted, the Mize CX platform does also integrate with other CRMs such as Salesforce, which will also help the technicians in the back office to better track the problem and the knowledge required to solve it. Okay, moving on just to another scenario here. You know, when it comes to accessing knowledge out in the field, it's not all about the documents and accessing support cases and things like that. A big part of knowledge in the field is parts. Parts can be extremely useful for technicians that need to navigate the inner workings of a product, bill of materials, assemblies and components, and further identify if they need those parts, if they're available in their inventory. So the first thing I'll do here is open up the parts catalog. This will give me either a 3D rendering or a 2D rendering of a particular part component, which I can navigate through. These parts can be OCR read and identify the particular part on the screen, go in to look at the part info, gain that knowledge, and then lastly, understand if this part item is in stock. And I am logged into this mobile app as Technician 1, and I can see right here that I have 25 of those available parts. And that was just from the parts catalog, looking at it from the part component or assembly. But if, again, from a knowledge perspective, if I wanted to see all of my inventory out in the field, making sure that I have the right parts for the job, I can simply go into our parts inventory screen here and identify all the parts I have available to me. So let's look at this in the context of a service order, both past and present. Now, technicians may find themselves needing to know the service history, the claim history, the product information, any entitlements, all to properly diagnose and fix the problem. In the mobile app that the technician has, accessing a service order or work orders that have been assigned to them, they can land on a screen that is going to give them all the relevant information about the job, and as they so chose, to drill into that information to find more. In this example, I'm going to scroll down towards the bottom here. We can see at the very bottom the model and serial number for the piece of equipment that I'm set to fix as the technician. Tapping these info icons is going to give me a rich area where I can identify all kinds of information about this particular model, from specifications, accessories, to even the same knowledge I could have found out in the Knowledge Center. Now, tapping on any of those, I'll be able to open up that knowledge document, and if I knew that I wasn't going to be in an area that had good Wi-Fi or LTE service, of course, I can take all of these documents and download them before I go on site. But to get more contextual knowledge about this particular product, I will tap on the info icon for that serial number. Here I'm going to get a rich history of this particular product in what we call the Product 360. It's going to tell me the service history for the inspections, the product support cases. Other technicians might have had issues with this product where they had to contact the support center. This particular product has 44 service orders. Now I can tap into those and go into each one and identify what the problems were. Were they preventative maintenance, repairs, installations, warranty related? I have those all here. Great knowledge resource for me to look at on this particular product. I don't need to call into the back office to find this information. Lastly, again, in context of the service order, identifying the parts that are needed for this product on this job, I can simply stay in that service order, go to my parts, and choose to import those from the parts catalog, which is very similar to what I was showing before. Some of the other nice features about this parts catalog is that it has knowledge built right into it. I can identify any knowledge resources that would be available there, as well as choosing a particular part from that diagram and adding it right back into the service order. Okay. Now, in that service order, that part is now added. I gathered all of the information that I needed, and in fact, when I go to that particular part and identify the quantity that I need for that job, from a knowledge perspective, I also know what the availability is. Again, as this technician can see that they have 25 of these particular parts available on their truck. And then lastly, again, adding to the knowledge of the product and of the jobs for other technicians who may come along which have to service this part. I do also want to provide any knowledge gained or any information that could be helpful to other technicians identifying previous service records. So in the case of that, I do have an activity feed that I can add attachments, photos and videos to, comments, emails, log calls, as well as get expert help. Now, when we select expert help, this is the integration point that we're talking about today, where we're going to hand it over to Marc to give a better demonstration for the augmented and merged reality. But before we do that, I do want to cover a few examples of the knowledge accessible to technicians out in the field. This case study was for Electrolux. The pain points for them was that they were utilizing a legacy system to provide information to technicians out in the field. The system was outdated, not indexed for Google-like searching. The service information and knowledge was tucked inside the Electrolux firewall, also housed in Google Drive, making it very difficult for these stakeholders to access. The previous solution, it was not very mobile friendly. It did not have any offline functionality. It essentially was a large burden on the technicians and the support desk personnel to provide on-demand service and knowledge. The solution was an enhanced technician service experience via a mobile app that empowered the technicians to access a variety of different types of knowledge. It was a central and mobile accessible knowledge repository for all of their knowledge. It had over 2,000 knowledge documents available to over 3,000 Electrolux service providers, and was also enabled as a remote service assistance through a video feature for technicians to connect with internal support teams who can record the call, store and index it for knowledgeable reference later. This solution saw overwhelming benefits through real-time mobile access to documents and videos, as well as increase the technician productivity, repair time, and first-time fix, limiting interface points for dealers to obtain information and reducing support costs by Electrolux by reducing calls to the technician support line and reducing hold times for technicians. So at this time, I would like to hand it off to Marc Guthrie at Hope Lightning to demo a revolutionary and immersive AR MR use case and case study.
As you see, this Mize blocks solution allows you to gain access to a tremendous amount of knowledge from many different sources. And that's obviously hugely valuable for the technician, or even a potentially for your customer. However, there are times when even with all of the knowledge, you just need an expert there to help you get through solving a problem. And that is what Help Lightning and our virtual interactive presence capability, this AR MR merged reality capability, provides you to do. You can effectively take an expert that is 3,000 miles away and virtually place them next to you as you're trying to solve a problem. So we certainly integrate with various platforms and have this clean integration with Mize, as you saw in Andrew's presentation, as you just have an expert help button, and when you click on that expert help, then it's going to create a video session with an expert that's going to provide you that capability. Great. So Alan is going to act as the technician here. So Alan, if you just want to click on that link to call an expert, then those of you watching the webinar will see how that will work from the expert side. I'll be acting as the expert.
Okay, it says establishing a connection.
All righty. So now as the expert, I see the call coming in. I'm going to answer that call. And when we do, then that video session will get created, and it's going to start out in face-to-face mode. So we'll start out this way. We're going to mute our microphones on the Help Lightning interface since we've already got the webinar up and running. So I'm going to go into give help mode. And when I do, it's automatically going to switch back to Alan's rear camera, and we, as the expert, will see what he's looking at. So as you see now, so Alan didn't have to do anything special. All he's doing is just holding his phone, and I see now what with the problem that he's having, and apparently he's having trouble with this simple router and needs some support on that. And there's a lot of things that we can do now that we have our eyes on this problem. I can certainly circle an area that we need to focus on and say, maybe this is the cable that we're going to do that. Alan can also, he can draw on his screen, and when he does, then I'll be able to see, see what he's drawing. So clearly and his shows up in a different color, and he's asking some questions, and that's very valuable But the real power, as I mentioned, is with Help Lightning and this merged reality capability. I'm going to erase our drawings there. We can effectively put the expert next to you. And the way we do that is with this merged reality. So I can put my hands into his field of view. So you can see now that this is my hand and I am guiding him. I'm going to say, Alan, what I need you to do, I think this cable here is probably plugged in to the wrong place. That's right. So if you can just kind of pull that cable out, and we're going to try maybe putting it in one of these other connections. Now, it looks like it might not fit there based on that connection type. So let's go ahead and put it back in, and we'll kind of focus on some other things. So just, if you could just pull the camera back a little bit so I can see the whole thing. Okay, well, I might need you to do something with two hands. So I'm going to freeze the frame. So hold the camera still just for a second, and I'm going to freeze that image. And when I do, now, see, Alan now has a frozen image. He can actually put his device down on the table, and I can still put my hands in and guide him. What I need you to do is take this and just flip it over for me. Just flip this over like that, because we need to look at something underneath. So you can see now that if you're working on a problem that requires you to have two hands, you don't necessarily need like a set of glasses or anything like that. You can actually work with two hands using this capability, and we can still draw on the screen. I can draw, Alan can draw, we can zoom in and then pan around if we need to see various things on the screen that we need to work on. So I'm going to go ahead and unfreeze the image and let him kind of show me the problem again. Now, again, just like in the knowledge management system where you could potentially show some documents, I can do that as part of this video session as well. So I can go into this menu item up here and click on this folder, and I can choose a document that I might have access to. So I'll grab let's see what I can find here. Maybe a network diagram. This is just a simple PDF document, and now that's going to load in. I'm going to find the part of that document I'd like to share, and I can share that out with Alan. And now both of us are seeing this. He's seeing this on his screen. I'm seeing it as the expert. I can point things out on this document that I need him to focus on, or I could even turn my camera back on if I wanted to, with virtually point out items in this diagram that I need him to really focus on and to point out. Obviously, we can expand that in various things as well. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get out of document sharing mode, and I can do the exact same thing with photos. So let's say that I have a photo, or even Alan could take a photo as well and load that photo into the session and give help on that photo. Just like, let's say I actually have an image of a router here that we need to provide help on, and I can guide him through the various components of this piece of equipment and how he needs to focus on one area or another. And again, I can do that with my hands as if I'm standing right next to him. And one of the data that I'm going to get out of photo mode here, we've done a lot of research in the past year about this ability to put your hands in and provide guidance with merged reality. And what we have found is that 22% more problems are solved when you're using merged reality than if you were just using simple video with telestration. So that's a powerful, if you think about the number of trips you take over the course of a month or a year, if you can solve 22% more problems the first time by using this capability, it's just a huge value creator. And remember, you want to provide that knowledge base. You want to provide those documents. You want to do self-help when you can, but as I mentioned, there are times when an expert is needed. And when an expert is needed, if you can virtually be there, it creates a huge value. I'm going to go through just a couple of other things and then we'll go back to the PowerPoint presentation. But the other one value proposition is we could actually add a third party. So let's say that Alan and I are working on this problem, and we realize that it's really Michael that has the true expertise here. We can invite him into the call. We won't do that today, but we can invite him into the call, and now he can become an expert in this call and provide the same type of support that I was providing by putting his hands in, guiding through, working on that problem. So very, very powerful. You can also switch roles if we needed to. If Alan needed to become the expert and provide me help on something, we can switch roles. So it doesn't matter who calls whom, the roles can be switched. You can turn your camera off if you needed to get out of merged reality mode and just watch the video. So a lot of powerful capabilities. So I'm gonna end the call and show one more feature. So when the call ends, you see that at this point, you have the opportunity to add tags and comments to your call. So you can tag the call with various information. You can add a comment, and all of that is stored as part of the call record so that you can go back later and report on those tags or do searches on your tags and comments so that you can find maybe a whole set of calls associated with a certain piece of equipment or a certain customer or whatever. You can tag those any way you want to. So I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of use cases and that we have here. So with a couple of larger customers that have been using this merged reality. So Siemens, which is a very large company that provides medical equipment, typically imaging equipment or others, and you can assume the dollar cost of that equipment being down. They had a very significant issue where a piece of equipment was jamming. They could not get a technician out to the site until the next day. They were able to enter into a help lightning session and use a technician that was on site that worked for the customer. This was not a Siemens technician. This was a technician on site, and they were able to kind of get through that problem, have a customer that was up and running in a matter of a couple of hours as opposed to a day. So very, very powerful there. Husky is another example. Husky does injection molding, very large equipment, very expensive equipment. A very similar situation here where they had gone through a refurbishment of a piece of equipment. We tried to reboot the system and it just wouldn't come up. They were able to call back in to the Husky level 1 support team, found some poor connections on the piece of equipment, got that fixed in a matter of 30 minutes or so. Very, very quick to get that resolved and back online. So just wanted to go through a couple of very powerful use cases and exactly the kinds of examples and scenarios that you would anticipate for your own business as well. So with that, Alan, I'll pass it back to you.
What we've shown you is the Mize knowledge platform. And what we've told you here is that it integrates with Help Lightning's revolutionary AR MR application, and you can integrate that into any service interaction. You can easily share from knowledge bases and add to knowledge bases. So now you have a closed loop solution, putting in knowledge and extracting knowledge. By working with us at Mize, you have one partner for both the knowledge platform and the AR MR application. In the future, we'll have more browsing capabilities through our customer assist feature, which provides integration with our customer portal and our support smart blocks. You can also integrate this with diagnostic data and IoT data. You can have access to Product 360, where you can align the knowledge to all the products that you're supporting within the customer base. Also the smart panel. You can access a smart panel where you can get where it correlates the product failures and product service events with the type of knowledge that was utilized to solve the problem, and also has a ranking of how well each knowledge source was in solving the problem. And lastly, it integrates with CRM and ERP systems such as Salesforce, if you already are using that. And this knowledge platform with the AR MR solution has some positive impacts on key performance indicators. For example, it improves first-time fix rate. It improves technician productivity. It improves remote call resolution rates. It can result in a faster mean time to repair. It can lead to a lower cost per service call. It can improve customer satisfaction. It can also generate incremental revenue. So let me just talk briefly about that. Is that many companies are using this enhanced knowledge capability to offer remote support and access to remote experts as an added value service, where they are able to generate a premium price and higher margin revenue from that, having that capability. So it's not only does the knowledge help improve the internal performance of your service organization by making them more efficient, more productive, but also can directly lead to higher margin revenue, and which of course leads to higher profits for your organization. So it's a multiplier effect. Higher profits by being more efficient and more productive on the service event by having access to this knowledge tool, and also higher margins from generating higher margin revenue by offering the enhanced access to a remote support expert. Our prognosis for the future is that, well, currently, before we get to the prognosis, is that knowledge management is still very nascent in the field service industry. We've spoken to a number of analysts about that, and I've been in this industry for over 25 years, and I've heard that term knowledge management thrown around quite often, that knowledge management is the key to productivity, efficiency, and first-time fix rate. But yet, many of the industry analysts will agree that knowledge management is still very nascent in the field service industry, meaning that the majority of service organizations are not currently using these tools. However, everyone agrees. Help Lightning, Marc Guthrie at Help Lightning, Andrew, myself, and Alan at Mize, and if you talk to analysts, they'll tell you that knowledge tools will become ubiquitous within the next 5 years. And there's some data to back that up. There was a study done by Salesforce where they found that 92% of service executives want to transform the service models to keep up with consumer needs. So this idea of AR, MR, and knowledge management tools fits right into that wheelhouse of a new service model that transforms the way service is performed. Another data point from Aberdeen Group is that best-in-class field service organizations are 72% more likely than their peers to utilize visual collaboration tools like AR and MR. And lastly, 84% of millennials have used a self-service portal for customer service, and that's what they prefer. And indeed, in just a matter of years, the millennials will form a majority of the workforce, and they're going to expect to be working with service providers who provide them with access to these types of tools and provide this type of service experience. So we have a free offer for you. We have a special offer for those of you who are watching this webinar, either live or watching the on-demand version of it, and that's the ability to pilot our solution. We're giving you a 30-day pilot. It'll provide you with a proof of concept that this does work. We can implement this very rapidly. You'll have access to our knowledge platform, including the Mize AR MR solution. So if you're interested, contact us today at the number provided and the email given here. You'll receive a copy of this presentation, so you don't have to worry if you haven't had the chance to write this information down quick enough. Next, I want to turn the presentation over to Alan, who will moderate the Q&A, our question and answer session.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. And to Michael, as well as Andrew and Marc, I want to thank all three of you very much for sharing all of the insights you have. There was definitely a lot of information in our presentation today. So, to our webinar attendees now, our presenters are going to remain available for some questions, and you can post your questions for them using the question panel in the GoToWebinar widget. So I see now we have our first question here. This one looks like it's for Andrew. So Andrew, you can just respond directly, but gentlemen, Michael and Mark, and any of you, if you have additional comments to add to whatever the first one is saying, I encourage all of you to chime in as well. So Andrew, this one is saying that we have knowledge base in multiple languages, so how are we going to ensure that the knowledge is made accessible to those who need it? And I assume they mean in the multiple languages.
Yeah, okay, sure. The Mize platform has a knowledge publisher that would enable all the administrators accessing it to choose from about 25 different languages. And for the technicians, once those documents are published, they can simply go to their profile, adjust their locale to the language of their preference, and any knowledge that has been published in that language would be accessible to those technicians via the mobile app.
Okay, good. And gentlemen, if you don't have anything to add, then I'm going to go on to another live question here. This one says, so I would assume that this one is for Marc Guthrie. It says, can this tool be customized further based on requirements?
Yeah, that's a good question. Certainly, we do take a lot of feedback from our customers. Obviously, we would need to take a look at what the actual customizations are and see what that would look like. But we do have a lot of there's configuration in the tool where you can configure various items again, but certainly possible. We just need to talk through what those customizations might be.
Okay, and then anything to add there?
Well, from the Mize side, of course, the Mize platform is highly configurable, but in partnership with Help Lightning, we can configure the mobile app for technicians to the access point of accessing an expert. So whether that's in a service order, a support request, or even the knowledge center, we can give direct access to that technician to another expert out in the field using the Help Lightning capability.
Okay, good. All right, here's another question that I think both Andrew and Mark, you're going to have to consider which one of you, I think you can probably both answer this one. It says, who is going to add the content, like the videos and the documents? Andrew, let's start with you on that one.
Yeah, well, typically the whatever knowledge resource team, whoever's deemed the knowledge resource at the organization would have access privileges to the knowledge publisher. So they would be able to do that, add the content, and of course we would help them through training, via train the trainer sessions, like we like to call it, as well as some documentation which will help them go through the publishing sequences.
Okay, Mark, anything to add there?
No, nothing to add. That's exactly how it would work.
Okay. All right, this one, Mark, this is definitely for you also. It says, do you need to have any kind of special hardware in order to use the merged reality that the Help Lightning is providing that we just saw?
No, that's a great question. So no special hardware is needed. It's all software as a service, and as long as you have an iOS or Android device or a webcam on a browser, that's all you need. Okay,
great. Andrew, how about a special hardware for the things that you were demonstrating there?
Any mobile device, from handhelds, mobile phones, iOS, Android, as well as tablets. We can also, the technicians can also access some of these capabilities through their browser on their laptops, but of course, the true immersive experience is going to be on a mobile device.
Okay, good. All right, we've got another one coming in here now for Michael Blumberg. This one is, why is it important to have an audit trail or rating systems when it comes to the knowledge base?
Well, one of the reasons why you might want to have that is you don't want your technicians to keep reinventing the wheel. So if you have a if you have an audit trail or a rating system, a technician can see what has been tried before and short circuit the amount of time it takes them to find the right corrective action.
Okay, good. All right, this one is for Andrew also. Now this you may have touched on this a moment ago, but it says, can technicians and help desk personnel author their own knowledge for inclusion in this?
Yes, that's a good question. Some organizations do like to put some rules behind that, but in the past we have enabled technician and help desk personnel to, of course, attach their own images and comments, as well as Michael just mentioning ratings. We consider that all authoring of knowledge to existing knowledge documentation, as well as on the trying to think of the best way to say this. When you're inside of a support or service ticket, all of that information can also be added to the knowledge base as well. So we do take and aggregate all the information that has come out of that, all of the knowledge, and that can also be added to the knowledge base, as well as any of the help lightning recorded calls. And Marc might be able to help describe that a little bit better, but all those recordings can become part of the knowledge base as well that the technicians are doing.
Okay, good. All right, and I think we're on our final question here. This one is also for you, Marc, Marc Guthrie. Is there a way to store the merged reality sessions that we have seen to be able to use them again later?
Yeah, absolutely. So those sessions can be configured so that they're recorded, and if they are recorded, then they can be stored in various places, either out on an AWS type server, just a cloud server, or given the integration, they could be stored as part of a ticket in your ticketing system.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the webinar, and it's fortunate for the timing of the questions too. So with that, I do want to bring you up to speed with an upcoming event, though, before we leave today. And that is that we do hope that you can join us all at Field Service Fall, which is going to be held at Amelia Island in Florida on August 19th to 21st this year. So you can see on the screen here that we do have a discount code, and we encourage you to use this in order to save 25% when you register through this particular hyperlink, which is on the screen. And again, we will be providing this detail to you as an email link at the end of the session here today. I do want to thank our presenters, and of course I do thank all of our attendees for joining, and I certainly hope that you found the webinar informative and useful. So as I said a moment ago, you will be receiving an email, and it's going to have a link to both the recording of this webinar as well as the link to the PDF file for all the slides that you've seen on the screen today. So until then, please be sure to contact Mize with any other questions you may have. You see the information on the screen right there. Thank you all for attending, and this concludes our webinar for today.